Hello and welcome to this special broadcast on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Teena Jha. 9th November 2019 will go down in Indian history as the day when the Supreme Court ended the more than a century-old land dispute in Ayodhya. In a unanimous verdict, the 5-judge Constitution bench, headed by Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi, paved the way to build a Ram temple at the disputed site in Ayodhya, while also directing the centre to allot an alternative 5-acre plot to the Sunni Waqf Board for building a mosque at a prominent place in the holy town. The claims made by the third party, the Nirmohi Akhada, were rejected, with the court saying it is not a Shabbat or devotee of the deity Ram Lalla and that its suit was barred by limitation. The verdict marked the end of the second longest proceedings in the history of the Supreme Court that had lasted for 40 days. In this special broadcast, we analyse this most significant judgment in Indian history, how the parties concerned reacted to the historic judgment. And also, to put the verdict in perspective, we trace the history of the decades-old Mandir-Masjid dispute. While calling it a matter of undisputed faith of the Hindus and the Muslims in their respective claims over the site, the Supreme Court said the title cannot be established on the ground of faith and belief, and they are only indicators for deciding the dispute. The court also recalled the ruling of the Allahabad High Court, in which a 3-way division of the land was ordered, but said a similar decision was legally unsustainable in the interest of peace and tranquility. While delivering the landmark verdict, the Supreme Court did not fail to appreciate the efforts of the Ayodhya mediation panel. The panel of mediators, led by Justice F.M.I. Khalifullah, Art of Living head Sri Ravi Shankar, and senior advocate Sri Ram Panchu, failed to reach a consensus in the Ramjanmabhoomi-Babri Masjid dispute case. This was then followed by the Supreme Court holding daily hearings in the case. Thanking them for their efforts, the Supreme Court said the panel came very close to a settlement. The mediation panel submitted a report in August stating that the parties concerned failed to reach a consensus. In reaching its verdict, the Supreme Court also rejected the Allahabad High Court judgment of 2010. The High Court had directed a 3-way equal division of the disputed site, giving 1/3 each to the Nirmohi Akhada, Hindus and Muslims. Striking down the Allahabad High Court order, the Supreme Court said its judgment adopted a path which was not open to it and granted reliefs which were not the subject matter of the prayers in the suits. It said the High Court had erred in granting relief that lay outside the ambit of the pleadings and the cases set up by the plaintiffs. The Supreme Court said despite the suits filed by Nirmohi Akhada and the Sunni Central Waqf Board being barred by limitation, it had granted them relief. Also, while the Nirmohi Akhada had only sought a decree for management, it was granted an independent share of the land. Relying on evidence, the Supreme Court found that Hindus worshipped in the outer courtyard unimpeded in spite of the setting up of a grilled brick wall in 1857. As regards the inner courtyard, there is evidence of worship by Hindus prior to the annexation of Awadh by the British in 1857. It said the Muslims offered no evidence to indicate they were in exclusive possession of the inner structure prior to 1857, since the date of the construction in the 16th century. It also said after the setting up of the grilled brick wall, evidence indicates namaz was offered within its presence, and the last Friday namaz was on 16 December 1949. The court concluded that the exclusion of the Muslims from worship and possession took place on the intervening night between 22nd and 23rd December 1949 when Hindu idols were installed. According to the Supreme Court, the structure of the mosque was brought down in a calculated act of destroying a place of public worship, even as the suits were pending and the Muslims were wrongly deprived of a mosque constructed well over 450 years ago. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. So in what has been one of the most important and most anticipated judgments in Indian history, a constitution bench headed by Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi cleared the way for the construction of a Ram temple at the disputed site in Ayodhya. At the same time, it also directed the centre to allot a 5-acre plot to the Sunni Waqf Board
for building a mosque. More details of the historic judgment in this report.
A 5-judge constitutional bench of the Supreme Court on Saturday pronounced its landmark judgment in the 7-decade-old Ramjanmabhoomi-Babri Masjid land dispute case. The unanimous verdict said the disputed land in Ayodhya will be given to a government-run trust to build a temple at the site. At the same time, Muslims will be given a suitable 5-acre plot in the town where a mosque should be constructed. The bench, headed by Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi and comprising Justices S.A. Bobre, D.Y. Chandrachud, Ashok Bhushan and S. Abdul Nazir, said possession of the disputed 2.77-acre land rights will be handed over to the deity Ram Lalla, who is one of the 3 litigants in the case. The possession, however, will remain with the central government receiver.
Not satisfied with judgment at all. But we will discuss it. We respect and we appeal to the nation to observe calm and quiet.
देखिए ऐसा है ना कि हम इससे पहले भी कहते हैं कोर्ट ने जो भी कहा है वो ठीक कहा है, हम उसका सम्मान करते हैं। ये जिम्मेदारी सरकार की हम वो कहाँ देती है कहाँ नहीं देती है, क्योंकि हम कोर्ट का सम्मान करते हैं, पहले भी करते थे आज भी करते हैं। हमें चाहते हैं ये मसला हिंदुस्तान का बहुत अहम था, वो आज खत्म हो गया।
The unanimous verdict came amid appeals for peace by political and religious leaders and heightened security across the country. The Supreme Court ordered the centre to formulate a scheme in 3 months to set up a board of trustees for construction of a temple at the disputed structure. In effect, the court allotted the entire 2.77-acre disputed land for temple construction. It said the alternative land measuring 5 acres to set up the mosque would be given to the Sunni Waqf Board.
2.77 एकर्स लैंड जो विवाद का मुद्दा था, उसको सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने सारे साक्ष्यों को, दलीलों को, एएसआई की रिपोर्ट को, इंडिविजुअल विटनेसेस के स्टेटमेंट को पढ़ते हुए, जो जैसा कि मुख्य न्यायाधीश साहब ने पढ़ा, एक एक बिंदु को पढ़ा और पढ़ने के बाद कंसीडर करने के बाद कहा कि 2.77 एकर्स लैंड श्री राम लला को जाना चाहिए।
माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा है कि वहाँ राम मंदिर बन सकता है, एक ट्रस्ट को जमीन दी जाएगी और ट्रस्ट के हिसाब से जो ट्रस्ट करेगी, मैनेज करेगी, उस हिसाब से मंदिर बनेगा। और साथ साथ ये भी कहा है कि मुस्लिम्स को उस एरिया के बाहर अयोध्या में कहीं सूटेबल जगह पर 5 एकड़ जमीन दे दी जाए।
Further, the Supreme Court ruled that the Allahabad High Court judgment on the case in 2010 was wrong in dividing the disputed site into 3 parts. It ruled that the Nirmohi Akhada suit was not maintainable and it has no priestly rights. However, the court directed that in the board of trustees that will be set up, the Nirmohi Akhada should be given appropriate representation. Taking on board the archaeological evidence, the verdict says that the underlying structure below the disputed site at Ayodhya was not an Islamic structure, but the ASI has not established whether a temple was demolished to build a mosque. The verdict says that the destruction of the mosque in 1992 happened in breach of the Supreme Court's orders. It also mentions that the desecration of the mosque by placing idols in 1949 and its demolition was contrary to the law. The apex court said the extensive nature of Hindus worshipping at outer courtyard at the disputed site has been there, and evidence suggests the Muslims offered Friday prayers at the mosque, which indicates that they had not lost possession of the site. The court ruled that the Hindus consider the disputed site as the birthplace of Lord Ram. The apex court observed that the faith of the Hindus that Lord Ram was born at the demolished structure is undisputed, and the existence of Sita Rasoi, Ram Chabutra and Bhandar Greh are the testimony of the religious fact of the place.
If there is dispute, there is mechanism of redressal, and Supreme Court is the apex body for redressal of all the disputes. The best thing that Supreme Court has come with consensus on Ayodhya dispute, and it is expected that everyone will follow the spirit of Supreme Court on this issue. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya Sabha Television with Vipin and camera person Amit Raj in Delhi.
In light of the Supreme Court's verdict on the Ayodhya case, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu took to Twitter. He said that the people of the country should work together for peace. In a series of tweets, the Vice President also said that this great land of ours has space for all, and let's all move forward together towards peace and prosperity, nurturing our collective illustrious heritage. In his address to the nation after the Ayodhya verdict, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that the Supreme Court had ruled in a historic case, while stressing that acceptance of the unanimous ruling reflected our tolerant nature. The Prime Minister said the way each section of society welcomed the apex court verdict on Ayodhya reflects India's ancient traditions.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने एक ऐसे महत्वपूर्ण मामले पर फैसला सुनाया है जिसके पीछे सैकड़ों वर्षों का एक दीर्घकालीन इतिहास है। पूरे देश की ये इच्छा थी कि इस मामले की अदालत में हर रोज सुनवाई हो, जो हुई और आज निर्णय आ चुका है। दशकों तक चली न्याय प्रक्रिया और उस पूरी प्रक्रिया का अब समापन हुआ है। फैसला आने के बाद जिस प्रकार हर वर्ग ने, हर समुदाय ने, हर पंथ के लोगों ने, पूरे देश ने खुले दिल से इसे स्वीकार किया है, वो भारत की पुरातन संस्कृति, परंपराओं और सद्भाव की भावना को प्रतिबिंबित करता है।
The Prime Minister said the Ayodhya verdict is a golden chapter in the history of the Indian judiciary, adding that India's credo of unity in diversity is today visible in its totality.
125 करोड़ देशवासी खुद आज एक नया इतिहास रच रहे हैं, इतिहास के अंदर एक नया स्वर्णिम पृष्ठ जोड़ रहे हैं। साथियों, भारत की न्यायपालिका के इतिहास में भी आज का ये दिन एक स्वर्णिम अध्याय की तरह है। इस विषय पर सुनवाई के दौरान सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने सबको सुना, बहुत धैर्य से सुना और पूरे देश के लिए खुशी की बात है कि फैसला सर्वसम्मति से आया।
The Prime Minister also said peace, unity and amity are essential for the development of the country and described 9th November as a day to forget any bitterness one may have.
आज 9 नवंबर को करतारपुर साहिब कॉरिडोर की शुरुआत हुई है। इसमें भारत का भी सहयोग रहा है, पाकिस्तान का भी। आज अयोध्या पर फैसले के साथ ही 9 नवंबर की ये तारीख हमें साथ रहकर आगे बढ़ने की सीख भी दे रही है।
Underscoring the need for communal harmony, the Prime Minister said the verdict had brought a new dawn and now the next generation will build a new India.
आज के दिन का संदेश जोड़ने का है, जुड़ने का है और मिलकर जीने का है। इन सारी बातों को लेकर कहीं भी, कभी भी किसी के मन में कोई कटुता रही हो तो आज उसे तिलांजलि देने का भी दिन है। नए भारत में भय, कटुता, नकारात्मकता का कोई स्थान नहीं होना चाहिए। सर्वोच्च न्यायालय के आज के फैसले ने देश को ये संदेश भी दिया है कि कठिन से कठिन मसले का हल संविधान के दायरे में ही आता है।
And let's now listen in to all the other reactions that have been coming in from across the country on the Ayodhya verdict.
राम जन्मभूमि के संबंध में जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट का फैसला है उसे यहाँ मैं ऐतिहासिक मानता हूँ, एक लैंडमार्क जजमेंट के रूप में भी मैं देखता हूँ। मेरा यह मानना है कि इससे सर्व धर्म समभाव को एक मजबूती मिलेगी और साथ ही साथ एक परस्पर लोगों के रिश्ते भी बेहतर होंगे, ऐसा मेरा मानना है। और सभी से मैं यह अपील करना चाहूँगा कि इस अवसर पर शांति व्यवस्था बनाकर रखें और इस फैसले को किसी की हार अथवा जीत के रूप में नहीं लिया जाना चाहिए।
देखिए, न्यायालय ने जो निर्णय दिया है वो लोकतांत्रिक देश होने के नाते सबने उसको स्वीकार करना चाहिए और शांति और सद्भाव वही कायम रखना चाहिए। सभी लोग शांति और सद्भाव कायम रखें, यही मेरी प्रार्थना है।
अयोध्या का जो बहुत प्रतीक्षित फैसला था वो आ गया है, उसका स्वागत है। देर आए दुरुस्त आए इस फैसले को कहा जा सकता है। और मेरे देश की, मेरे हिंदुस्तान की जो सौहार्द और एकता की संस्कृति और संस्कार है, उसी ताकत ने अनेकता में एकता की डोर के साथ पूरे देश को और पूरे देश के लोगों को बांध रखा है। अयोध्या का जो फैसला है वो किसी की हार और किसी की जीत के रूप में नहीं देखना चाहिए और इस न्यायिक फैसले को जीत के जुनूनी जश्न और हार के हाहाकारी हंगामे की भेंट नहीं चढ़ना चाहिए। हमें पूरी तरह से देश के सौहार्द, देश के भाईचारे और देश की एकता की जो डोर है, जो संस्कृति और संस्कार है, उसे हर हाल में मजबूत करना है।
श्री राम जन्मभूमि के संबंध में माननीय सर्वोच्च न्यायालय द्वारा इस देश की जनभावना, आस्था एवं श्रद्धा को न्याय देने वाले निर्णय का राष्ट्रीय स्वयंसेवक संघ स्वागत करता है। दशकों तक चली लंबी न्यायिक प्रक्रिया के बाद यह विधि सम्मत अंतिम निर्णय हुआ है।
आस्था और विश्वास का सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने सम्मान किया है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट के निर्णय का हम सम्मान करते हैं और भारतीय राष्ट्रीय कांग्रेस भगवान श्री राम के मंदिर के निर्माण की पक्षधर है।
Time for a short break here on the program. We'll be right back. Do stay with us.
The prolific British poet and story writer Joseph Rudyard Kipling, one of the first masters of short stories in English. In 1894 appeared his Jungle Book, which became a children's classic all over the world. Kim, the story of Kimball O'Hara and his adventures in the Himalayas, is perhaps his most felicitous work published. Set in and concerned with India he had come to know and love so well. In 1907, Kipling became the first English language writer to receive the Nobel Prize for Literature.
हरमंदर हरि का मंदिर, इसकी साजना जो है वो बानी में संदेश आता है कि हर मंदिर, हर साजिया, हर बसे जिस नाल। Sikhs are inspired from here. Sikhs are living for Golden Temple.
We went through many winding, narrow streets until we arrived at the end. Suddenly there was a blast of space,
Whenever I go there, the whole structure, it says, oh, you are here again? Let's do something good. Let's do something different.
Welcome back to this special broadcast. The hearing in the politically and religiously sensitive Ayodhya land dispute was the second longest proceedings in the history of the Supreme Court, lasting for 40 days. Our next report tells you how the whole dispute unfolded over the past several decades.
The Babri Masjid Ramjanmabhoomi disputes has been the source of religious and political conflict down the years. But the first case regarding the structure was filed way back in 1885. The main question that fuels the Ayodhya controversy is whether the Babri Masjid was really constructed on the remains of an even more ancient Hindu temple. According to legend, Mir Baqi, a general of Mughal king Babur, destroyed a Ram temple and built the Babri Masjid in 1528. In 1853, the first instances of religious violence was noted at the site. In 1859, the British ordered that the inner portion of the courtyard be fenced for Muslims, while Hindus could use the outer area. In 1885, Mahant Raghubar Das wanted to construct a temple for Lord Ram on the land next to the mosque, but the Faizabad Deputy Commissioner did not allow this. Das filed a suit asking permission to build a Ram temple in the inner courtyard of the mosque. In 1949, idols of Ram Lala or the infant Ram appeared under the central dome of the mosque. While Muslims protested, multiple groups filed cases to reclaim the site as their own religious ground. It was termed as a disputed site by the government and locked up. In 1984, the Vishwa Hindu Parishad led a committee to build a temple. Bharatiya Janata Party leader Lal Krishna Advani headed the campaign. In 1986, the district judge ordered the gates to be unlocked to allow Hindus to worship in the structure. In protest against the directive, the Babri Mosque Action Committee came up. In September 1990, Advani led a Rath Yatra but was arrested before he could reach the city. Kar Sevaks attempted to damage the mosque that caused tussles between them and the paramilitary forces. The BJP came into power in Uttar Pradesh in 1991, where Ayodhya and the Babri Masjid are located. On December 6, 1992, a mob broke the Babri Masjid, leading to massive inter-communal riots in which over 2,000 people were reportedly killed. 2 FIRs were filed after the inter-communal riots, the first regarding the actual demolition of the mosque by the Kar Sevaks and the second against BJP leaders including L.K. Advani, Murli Manohar Joshi and others. In 1993, the state government took over 67 acres of land around the disputed area and asks the Supreme Court to place its opinion on whether the mosque was built in the early 1500s in a place where a Hindu temple existed before. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The simmering tension over the Mandir-Masjid dispute came to a boil in the year 1992. And since then, the legal battle between the Hindu and the Muslim groups over the possession of the disputed site took several twists and turns, which we analyse in our next report.
In September 1990, BJP stalwart L.K. Advani began a Rath Yatra to Ayodhya in order to generate support for the movement, but was arrested. However, many Kar Sevaks attempted to damage the mosque, triggering clashes with the police and paramilitary forces. The biggest flashpoint came in 1992 when a mob of around 1.5 lakh Kar Sevaks from various Hindu groups stormed into the mosque and tore it down. The Babri demolition sparked massive communal riots in which more than 2,000 people were killed. 2 FIRs were filed, the first regarding the actual demolition of the mosque by Kar Sevaks and the second against L.K. Advani, Murli Manohar Joshi and others who gave speeches before the demolition. In 1993, the UP government took over 67 acres of land around the disputed area. In October 1993, CBI filed a charge sheet against Advani and others, accusing them of conspiracy. In 1994, the case was shifted to the Lucknow bench of the High Court. On May 4, 2001, Special Judge S.K. Shukla dropped conspiracy charges against 13 people, including Advani and Kalyan Singh. In 2003, the court ordered a survey to find out whether a temple existed on the disputed site at Ayodhya. In August, the surveys presented evidence of a temple under the mosque. Muslim groups disputed the findings. In November 2004, a UP court called for a review of an order that exonerated Advani. On May 20, 2010, L.K. Advani was absolved of all charges. Soon after, the Allahabad High Court upheld a special court order from 2001 directing to proceed with conspiracy charges against Advani and others. On 30th September 2010, the Allahabad High Court pronounced its verdict on 4 title suits relating to the Ayodhya dispute. It ruled that the Ayodhya land should be divided into 3 equal parts between Ram Lalla, Sunni Waqf Board and the Nirmohi Akhada. In 2011, the Supreme Court upheld the Allahabad High Court verdict and ordered that the 2 FIRs filed in 1992 be trailed jointly in the case. In February 2016, the Supreme Court allowed BJP leader Subramanian Swamy to plead construction of a Ram temple at the site of the demolished mosque. On March 6, 2017, Supreme Court heard a CBI plea to invoke charges of conspiracy against top political leaders. On March 21st the same year, then CJI J.S. Kheher suggested out-of-court rapprochement among the rival parties in the decades-old case, offering to settle the case amicably. On August 8, 2017, the Uttar Pradesh Shia Central Waqf Board told Supreme Court that they would settle for a mosque at a reasonable distance from the place of birth of Lord Ram. In December 2017, a Supreme Court bench headed by Chief Justice Deepak Mishra set February 8, 2018 as the date for final hearing on the case, after which the case was adjourned for the next date. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And that's it from us on this special program on the Ayodhya verdict. Thank you very much for your time.